My grandmother always had food on the table. It brought everyone together. I liked that. At 17, I was working any job I could to make money. When I was invited into the kitchen, I felt it immediately. The focus, the pressure, the rhythm. It wasn't just cooking. It was an artistic outlet, a culture I wanted to be a part of. I belonged.
Chef, thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely, excited to have you here.
Yeah, so you're from New Jersey originally?
Yes, sir.
Right. What was growing up like?
I grew up very, in an Italian family. My mother's, from my mother's side is Italian. Grew up going to grandma's house every Sunday. Always a lot of food everywhere and stuff like that. The Jersey Italian way. It was that, that lifestyle, that upbringing is what really drove me to where I am right now. So.
Okay. And was your grandmother a very good cook? Was she like your classic Nonna?
Yes.
Yeah?
100%. I think everybody's grandmother is the best cook, right? I think everybody will say that. I only got to cook with my grandmother on the sort of the level I'm at now, maybe once or twice in my life.
Okay.
But as a kid, I always saw what was going on, and she always made certain things for certain holidays, that we always loved. In general, she would make meatballs almost all the time, and no one knows how to make them as good as she does.
Yeah. It's always how it goes. I mean, you get the recipe and it's like...
It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. You could use the same exact ingredients.
Yep.
It's not the same. And that really trickles down all around, even, working for Chef Daniel, like him and I could stand next to each other with the same exact ingredients and he's going to make it better than I. It's the truth. It's a tough thing to really replicate what he does or what my grandmother did, etc. To a T. There's always that little bit of touch that a chef puts into it for sure. So, it can be a challenge. But again, growing up with watching my grandmother cook and things is what kind of like inspired me to be where I am right now. So
she was the biggest influence in terms of cooking?
I would say yes. I think for sure. I think just the family overall, the way it is. Right? Growing up in an Italian family, like again, food's around you all the time. It's all we know. There was definitely a point where maybe I I wasn't cooking as a young kid or teenager or whatever, but I stepped into a kitchen one day at a job that I was at, and they asked me to, can you work in the kitchen tonight? I said, sure, I'll help out. And they kind of threw me and said, you're going to make some salads and you're going to fry calamari. That's the only two things you're going to do. And at the end of the night, I said, I don't really want to do anything ever again in my life. I just want to be a cook. Yeah. I want to be a chef at some time. It was the aura of the kitchen, the idea that this is like this is a creative outlet, Yeah. I can't draw or anything like that, so this is my way of being an artist, I guess, if you will. That's kind of where, I guess that's kind of like another like driving force of where I'm at. So.
What was the greatest lesson your grandmother ever taught you?
Ooh. Oh man. No one's ever asked me that. It was an unspoken thing, right? Going back to saying like there was always food on the table when you were going to grandma's house. It could have been just my immediate family. It could have been the whole extended family. There's always food around, right? And it was the food that brought the whole family together. Again, whether it was just 4 of us or if it was 30 of us, it didn't matter. It was it was by putting that on the table, by making that good, that's what made the family like good. It was like you saw that, you did that, you saw that, and that became like instilled in your brain. That was like, okay, this is what's important. This is what, if the family's coming over, we're gonna put the food on the table, and that's gonna bring the family together. That's how it was.
So if someone were to ask you, how do you believe that food transfers emotion, would you relate it back to community?
Community being like neighborhood community or
family, whatever, like bringing together friends, family in an intimate setting. Like if someone were to ask you, how do you believe that food transfers emotion? How would you put that into?
How do I believe that?
Yeah.
I don't know how I believe it, but I believe it. It's exactly that, right? If we don't know each other, right? Let's say there was a few more people sitting at the table here. None of us know each other. It might be a bit awkward, maybe a tough conversation here or there, but you throw food on the table, and now all of a sudden it's a talking point. Yeah. Right? It could be a talking point for many reasons. This is my favorite thing. I don't like this. I'm allergic. There's a lot of things. But now all of a sudden, people are together. It just makes the conversation easy. People always, I always joke, I guess, really saying like, people are always going to eat. Jobs are going to come and go, but restaurants are never going. People are always going to have to eat, so I'm never going to be without a job, in some respect, right?
AI is not going to take over.
Nope. No, AI is taking our jobs,
over
not mine.
But it can't take over yours.
No.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be food on the table. There's always going to be a need for food on the table, in some capacity. It may not be a fine dining restaurant. It could be a pizza place. It could be anything. There's always going to be that, right? And it's going to bring the people together because of whatever the case may be. AI is taking our jobs. Let's go get some food and cry over this. That brings you together. To make the joke about the AI thing, right?
No,
but in
true.
general, it's food will bring people together. You could be sitting at a bar, having dinner by yourself, and maybe the guy next to you is by himself as well. All of a sudden, you guys are talking because you're having the same thing to eat or whatever. Oh, hey, what are you eating? I should have tried that instead. It just will always bring people together. So that sense of community, that sense of like it's just a bond, that will always be there, I think, and that's what food does. And it does even more than that, of course. From a saying community, we here at the restaurant, we actually once a month we cook for what's called Quantum House. Okay. It's a part of the hospital here in downtown West Palm, and it's like a sort of a children's aspect. You talk about community, that's what we do for the community as well, right? So like that brings people together. It's food is indispensable.
How has Daniel inspired you? Whether that, I take it that probably started. You said you worked for him originally.
Yes.
At what restaurant was that?
Well, it's gone now, unfortunately. It was on the corner of 64th and Broadway in New York. It was Bar Boulud. Okay. And on the corner, you had a pizzeria, you had Bar Boulud and Boulud Sud. Okay. And they've closed that, and they're reopening it here in, I would say, actually a couple months, as something bigger. But I worked there. It was great. But coming down here, to talk about inspiration, I'm actually really happy you asked that, because here we were for Food and Wine Festival. We have a menu made for it. But on the fly, chef says, we're gonna do something else. We're gonna add something else, and we bring in some swordfish from right down here in Miami. Fresh caught. It was actually fantastic fish, and him and I were in the walk-in, and it was amazing to watch how his mind worked. He stepped in the walk-in and he said, "Okay, we have some endive, we have some sweet potatoes, we've got orange." Okay, I got it. Oh, some cipollini onions, and boom, he just came up with this whole dish. We prepped it on, the night before. We had it ready to go for the next day, and it was possibly the star of the show. And crazy to think that when here we were having prepped all the other stuff, having thought the other menu out, and then here he is. He walks in and just said, "Yeah, we're gonna get some swordfish in, and we're gonna do this."
Yeah.
Yes, chef, no problem. Of course we do that. And he just put it together, and it was absolutely wonderful. So that's an inspiration in itself. See you later, guys. Thank you. Just watching him do that was, I stood there. It took all of maybe 2.5 minutes for him to do that, to just come up with seeing a few things. I think every chef can walk in and do something like that, but to watch the man himself do it is a different story, right? And say, holy cow, that's right, I work for this guy, it was really great to see that. Him and I had a conversation about, on the day that he was leaving, he mentioned the term progressive French cuisine to me, and he said it to me the night before, and the next day when he was leaving, I said goodbye to him. I said, "Chef, I'll remember progressive French cuisine," and he said, "Don't forget the DNA of things, where it comes from," and that was an inspiration itself, right? So I'm always searching the Instagram, et cetera, right? My nose is always in a cookbook, but here I am now saying, okay, what is progressive French cuisine? So you talk about inspiration. He's inspired me to dive into this and think about what that means, to see what the plating style of that might be. What are the flavors? How does it work? What is that best suited to? And how can I apply it to this restaurant, to this kitchen?
If you could have one cuisine in your DNA that you want to pursue, really, would it be French?
Don't let Chef Daniel hear this. I'm just kidding. It's Italian. That's what's in my blood.
That's the most.
I'm very happy doing what we do here. Yeah. I'm very happy to push myself to learn a better, French, progressive French. I want to learn it. It's not that I'm happy about it. I want to learn it. I want to better myself. I want to be more rounded. But if somebody right now said, here's the money to do what you want, to open your restaurant the way you want it, it's going to be Italian. It's going to be something probably very pizza focused even. That's what I love. It's like, I want to say it's a hobby, but it's not. I'm a chef, so it's more than just a hobby to me, right? This is that's what I want to do in life. But in the moment, I want to do this. I want it to be this restaurant. At some point, I'm sure down the road, it'll be my own somewhere. Right? Yeah, so if somebody were to say, you can open your restaurant, you can do your way, your thing right here, right now, it's going to be a place called Zabita, which is a play off of my last name, and obviously the word pizza. And that's my goal, is to open a place where it's not just a pizza restaurant. We serve pizza. We're going to do a certain style of pizza, but at the same time still have some crudos on the menu, a couple nice salad scenarios. Ideally, a wood burning oven where pizza might be coming out of it on one side, but also some larger format entrees, right? I don't want you to think of pizzeria, but an Italian style restaurant where you can feel like you can come there more than once a week and have a great meal, or we're going to celebrate, and you can still feel like you're getting the great service of a celebratory meal, right? A neighborhood scenario, but also a celebratory environment as well. But focused around this Italian cuisine, this, again, maybe to go back to Jersey Italian, maybe that's what I really like, maybe that's what is in my mind and in my heart. It's what I grew up knowing. That's what I would do. If somebody just handed me a pile of money right now and said, this is enough to do what you want, that's what I'm going to do.
And where are you putting it?
Well, real estate's getting expensive in West Palm, but maybe down there.
You have unlimited money.
Oh, unlimited money?
You have a backing wherever you want.
West Palm.
West Palm. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I really have fallen in love with the area overall. As I mentioned, to live in downtown West Palm, you have the Bright Line right here, and to be able to just jump on that and end up in Miami in an hour, you know, it's fantastic. I think it takes an hour and 10 minutes. It was the greatest thing in the world. You can't drive there in an hour and 10 minutes. I think that West Palm, downtown West Palm, is about to just blow up. It's becoming this massive. I mean, it already is. Right? It's already growing. But I think in the next 5 years, it's going to be like, holy cow! Look at what we've got here. And I think that's the place to be right now. I think Palm Beach is always going to be Palm Beach. It's beautiful. It's never going to change. I think that people will always come here and have dinner and dine or whatever. You know, they're always going to be here. I think that West Palm is going to be the it place, though. You know. It's not going to take away from here. I think that's just going to be the it place, and that's going to be where people are going to go, you know. And I look forward to it. Whether I have that pile of money to open the restaurant or not, I love living there, and I love so I've fallen in love with the area all over. You know, it's everything about it. So that would be the spot.
It's very interesting to see very traditional French food that can be very delicious and homey, or take the word molecular gastronomy,
right,
and spherify things and push the boundaries. How would you identify your style of cooking within, I guess, that scale, or versus Danielle, versus Chef Danielle?
Right. You kind of mentioned like the traditional side. What's cool about Café Boulud here, and I would say New York as well, is that there's kind of we kind of go on both ends of the spectrum. You know, right now we have a pâté en croûte on the menu. That's very traditional. In fact, right now we're in the middle of making some boudin blancs. You know, again, very traditional. And
I love boudin blanc sausage.
I'm so excited about it. We're going to use it for the holidays here. It's really going to be great.
You guys tourné apples as well? Or
we're going to, yeah. This is the first time we're making it, but you know, for the holiday here, it's going to be great. So I'm excited to do it. It's going to be so cool. But yeah, tourné apples, probably do like maybe an apple puree, a little Dijon jus or something like that. But in any case, yeah, you know, those two examples, super traditional, right? So we're going to, but on the other end, we have, I don't want to say it's like avant-garde. I mean, I would never do like molecular, you know, no spherification. That's not me. I probably had a time when I was younger that I believed in it, or I thought it was so cool. There's a time and place for it, and certain chefs out there can really like hammer it home, and that's their thing, and they do it fantastically. You know, I mean, Grant Achatz obviously being the top of the top, right? If you've ever eaten in his restaurant, it'll blow you away. So I'm somewhere in that middle ground, where we can do our plating styles. Again, might be, we're going to go towards progressive French, but what I do right now is probably a little bit different. And as a cook, you're told that your whole life, like, yes, the avant-garde, the molecular, etc., that's fun, but if you can't do this, you're not going to do this. You know, you have to know this before you get to that. You have to learn to crawl before you learn to walk, right? So
did you grow up hand making pasta?
No, I didn't get to do it. No, I didn't get to grow up making pastas like that. You know, Grandma did. Growing up, my grandmother and grandfather had a duplex, upstairs, downstairs. They lived on the first floor, and my aunt and uncle lived upstairs. Okay. And my aunt, my mom's sister, she was more like desserts. Okay. She could make the cookies all day long and things like that. That was her thing. So I didn't get to make the handmade pasta, nor did I really get to do the stuff upstairs, but it was just always around me. Yeah. You know, it was always like, you're a kid, you kind of like, you know what's going on. You're taking it all in, you're a sponge, you know? It's all just coming to you. So I didn't get to make it until I was a little bit older. And not even necessarily in the family setting. It was more like, you know, I could see what was going on, I kind of knew what was going on, you know, again, taking it in. And then, you know, stepping foot into a restaurant and somebody teaching me, oh, okay, this is how you do it, you know. That's when I got to really get in and get, quote unquote, hands-on.
To me, that's probably the most relaxing thing I've done in a kitchen. I've already committed to a 3-month program in Bologna. It's so monotonous, but at the same time, it's so relaxing, and it's just, there's something about such a simplicity, even though it's the same motion over and over again, that just is so inviting. And when you can put all that love and effort into something, and when I'm forming tortellini, and what would go into one dish takes me like 5 minutes, and then giving that to someone and watching them eat it, and all that labor and love that has to go into just that tiny plate.
Yep.
There's just something that's so unique about that to me.
We were in the middle of hand rolling garganelli just now.
Yeah.
And that's, I think people always ask you, like, what's your favorite, favorite pasta to make? It would be somewhere between like either making cappellettis / tortellinis or hand rolling garganelli. And it's what you said about that, like that motion. It's just, it becomes like
over and over again,
monotonous,
yeah.
but like in a way of like, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, and each piece is different, but it's the same, right? Because it has to look the same, but each one is like a little bit, it's just like, yep, you know. And I love watching the ridges be made on that. It's, you know, across the board or whatever it is you're using to form it. It's just so fun. You have the dowel, you wrap the dough around it, take it off, you know, and just over and over. But it's so fun to watch that tray fill up, and you're like, man, I just hand rolled 350 pieces of garganelli. You know, it's 5 orders or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me a perfect meal for you. Food, ambiance, drinks, who you're with.
Oh man, who I'm with. Hold on.
Where it may be.
Perfect meal. I don't know how to describe a perfect meal. Like what would be my most ideal meal. You know, I love doing a tasting menu. You know, sitting down, having, you know, a couple courses thrown at me is fantastic. Because I love seeing the progression of things. It's great. I'm just as happy sitting down eating a slice of pizza.
Yeah.
I love when people say, I had the best bowl of pasta in Italy. And I think to myself, well, you're sitting in a restaurant overlooking the Amalfi Coast. It may have been store-bought pasta, but it's in your mind, right? It's funny to say that sort of thing. You know, people say, oh, it's the best ever, it's the best ever. But there's so many factors of like, of the ambience of the restaurant, so on and so forth, and who you're with. So I think that it goes back to what I said, right? Putting food on the table brings people together, right? If it's a table full of people that don't know each other, you put that food there, and now you have something to talk about. Now you're bringing each other together, right? The food is bringing you together, I should say, rather. So I think your dining mates, if you will, dining companions, probably play a very big role. So to answer the question of who's like my perfect dining companion, I would say it's my sister. We used to go out once a year. I mean, we go out a bunch of times, but once a year. January 2nd was like our day. It was like our way to kick off the new year. And we would always pick a very high-end restaurant. It didn't have to be though, but it was like the chance to spend some money. Yeah. But that was our time to go and like spend that day together, you know, and it was like the tradition that we had built. I live here now, so it's obviously not something we get to do, unfortunately. You know, whenever I travel back to Jersey and see the family, we'll do it again. But it's not, it's let's go see this new restaurant. Oh, this is the new hype or whatever. Yes, it's about that, but it was more that like, just like, come on, we're gonna go out and do our thing.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you for coming on the show.
Of course, thank you for having me.